the whisper of the mountains. At the edge of a wide valley, where dawn stretched softly across the sky like a golden brushstroke, an old Zen monk named Hikari awoke in his mountain temple. The wooden floors beneath him still held the coolness of the night, and the distant sound of a flowing river echoed like a memory from another world. He sat quietly, watching the first rays of sunlight spill over the ridges. He had lived in this monastery for decades, far from the noise of cities, in a world where silence taught more than words and where stillness revealed truths the mind often missed. But today felt different. There was a subtle pull inside him, a whisper not from the wind or the pines. Many hearts are weary, Hikari thought. Many minds wander lost in storms they cannot name. He rose slowly, honoring each movement as part of the sacred flow of life. The sun touched his face gently, and a peace old, familiar, timeless, moved through him. Today, he murmured, may be the beginning of a new teaching, a journey to guide others back to themselves. With his staff in hand, he stepped out of the temple and into the forest path, where soft morning mist curled around the ancient stones. The journey had begun. The healing breath. Hikari led a small group of seekers into the forest. The air was rich with the scent of earth and cedar, and light danced on the leaves as if blessing their arrival. Many of the seekers carried invisible heaviness, anxiety, exhaustion, tangled thoughts, heavy hearts. Sit, Hikari said gently. Let the earth hold you. She never judges. They settled into the mossy ground. Close your eyes, he whispered. Now breathe, not to control the breath, but to meet it. Slowly they inhaled and exhaled. Hikari guided them with words soft as falling petals. Inhale as if you are receiving a gift. Exhale as if you are releasing years of burden. He invited them to imagine each breath bringing light into their bodies, and each outbreath carrying away darkness, tension, and worries. Some felt tears forming. Some felt warmth in the chest for the first time in months. Some felt the simple miracle of being alive. Healing begins, Hikari said, when you return to your breath, when you return to yourself. A gentle wind moved through the trees, as if agreeing. The burdens we carry. The next morning, Hikari led them deeper into the forest, to a clearing bathed in quiet sunlight. The trees stood tall like guardians of forgotten wisdom. Each of you carries weights no one else can see, he said softly. Expectations, guilt, fear of the future, pain from the past. He lifted a heavy stone. This stone is like the burdens you carry every day. Some of you have carried such stones for years. He walked to a small lake and dropped the stone. Plunk, ripples spread outward, then slowly faded. That is how release works, he said. When you let go, the echo remains for a moment, and then it disappears. Each student picked up a stone, some large, some small, and threw it into the lake. The sound of stones breaking the water became a rhythm of healing. One student asked quietly, "And what if the burden returns?" Hikari smiled with compassion. "Then you let it go again." Release is not a single act. It is a practice, a gentle returning to yourself, the art of living in the now. They climbed to a hilltop that overlooked the entire valley. Clouds drifted slowly above, and the air felt wide and open. "The present moment," Hikari said, "is the only home your mind will ever truly have." He settled into the grass and motioned for them to do the same. When you live in the past, you suffer. When you live in the future, you worry. But here, now, there is peace. He invited them to notice everything: the cool breeze on the skin, the weight of their bodies resting on the earth, the distant call of a bird, the breath rising and falling like waves. Some students felt time slow down. Others felt their minds expand into stillness they had not known since childhood. A mindfulness practice, Hikari said, is simply paying attention to what already exists. Nothing more. nothing less. The world around them felt suddenly alive, healing the inner wounds. That night, they gathered around a small fire outside the temple. The flames flickered softly, painting warm colors onto the stone walls. In each of you, Hikari said, lives a quiet pain, born from loss, disappointment, or unspoken hurt. He held a piece of old wood. This wood burns because it is dry. So does our emotional pain when we deny it nourishment. They watched the wood catch fire. When you look at your pain with compassion, he continued, it softens. When you allow yourself to feel, you begin to heal. Some students wept quietly, letting long-held emotions finally rise. Others simply breathed, letting the fire warm the parts of them that had been cold for years. Nothing in you is broken, Hikari said. You are a landscape of healing in progress. The fire crackled as if agreeing. The gentle art of self-kindness. In the early morning, Hikari brought them to a small still pond behind the temple. The water was calm, perfect, mirror-like. Look into the reflection, he said. They saw their faces, tired, searching, hopeful. Some of you speak to yourselves with cruelty, Hikari said. You demand perfection. You push yourself. You criticize every flaw. He knelt beside the pond. But self-kindness, he said softly, is the doorway to a new life. He asked them to place a hand over their hearts and repeat, I am allowed to rest. I am allowed to feel. I am allowed to be imperfect. I am enough as I am. The air seemed to soften around them. When you treat yourself with gentleness, Hikari said, your entire world becomes gentler. Your heart becomes lighter, and your mind becomes clear. The true pace of life. Later, the monk led them along an old mountain path. Moss grew over ancient stones, and streams ran quietly beside the trail. You live in a world that runs fast, Hikari said, but your soul has its own pace. He gestured toward the landscape. The river did not rush, yet it reached the sea. The flower did not hurry, yet it bloomed at the right time. The clouds did not force themselves, yet they shaped the sky. When you slow down, he said, you feel again, and when you feel, you heal. They walked in silence, one breath at a time, one step, one awareness, one moment of peace. Slowly, the noise inside them quieted, returning home to the self. On the final day, they gathered before the temple. The sunrise colored the mountains in warm gold and deep blue. Hikari spoke softly. You have learned to breathe again. You have learned to release. You have learned to be present. You have faced your wounds and opened your hearts. He stepped back, allowing each of them to stand tall. Now, he said gently, your true journey begins. They bowed not to Hikari, but to themselves, to the path they had walked, to the healing they had allowed. Remember this, Hikari said. Your breath is your teacher. Your stillness is your medicine. Your kindness is your shield. And your heart is your home. A soft wind rose, carrying the feeling of blessing, as if the mountains themselves were whispering, you are ready.